is not a partisan issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democrat issue. If you want to talk about safety, I hear the same thing that I heard my mom and dad talking about in Sleepy, Minnesota, where I grew up. The same thing that Mary and I talked about in Chaska, Minnesota, when we were raising our children. It's the same everywhere. A mom and a dad want their kids to be safe. They want to be able to send them out in the front yard or backyard without having to worry about ricocheting bullets. America has enemies. We have enemies outside our borders. We have enemies inside our borders. If it's outside our borders, we have a thing called the military. We honor our soldiers. We appreciate and respect that they put their life on the line for us. But we have those same kinds of soldiers inside our boundaries, and those are called policemen, and the National Guard, and the first responders. And these people put their lives on the line every day. We need to respect our policemen. Policemen are no different than doctors. We mess up. We might have 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 100 physicians. There's a reason why Medicare has an entire department devoted to fraud. It's not because the patient's defrauding Medicare. It's because hospitals, clinics, and doctors step on the line. Those things happen. Healthcare is trying to reform itself and be better. Police departments are trying to reform themselves and do better. If you take the R in the word crime, it's about reform. Don't think for a minute that reform isn't going on because the legislature can't pass a bill. Frankly, I don't know if the legislators really know what reform would look like. We've got to trust the people that we put in charge and say, do it better, get better. Your application process, your interview process, your training process, your monitoring process, do it better. I think we've got to call out stupid when you see it. Forrest Gump said it. Stupid is as stupid does. Okay, and the E, engagement. And you're wondering what I mean by that. But what I'm thinking about when I think about engagement is all of you folks, you don't want to hear the political rhetoric. You want to hear real ideas. How do we make our streets safer? How do we capture the public safety that we used to take for granted? I think we have to ask our elected leaders to stop hiding. To stop hiding behind the fact that if they say something that might possibly hurt their next election, to go ahead, give it up, and just try to solve the problem. Put out ideas on the table. I have not heard any good ideas from Governor Walz as to how to really recapture public safety. I haven't heard it from Jacob Fry. But that's what you folks want. You want the problem solved. So I'm going to tell you, again, put the cops back on the streets. Know that reform is taking place. Incarcerate the bad guys who are felons and shooting guns. Realize that this is a Minnesota problem and that you're not going to stop until the elected officials start engaging the problem honestly, because that's what you expect and you should. We call a 19-year-old cook. We will respect you. We will run a unique campaign. We will run a campaign that's not about professional politicians. We're going to problem solve. We're going to go down there, and in the first 100 days, you are going to see us problem solve, and you're going to see us do it without the benefit of big tech or big pharma, because we're not taking a dime from them. And we will trailblaze. We will talk about issues in a way that people aren't expecting. We'll be honest. I will tell you, I miss on things. I honestly, and I'm being dead serious, a year ago, I bought into what I was being told. I did not think that this virus was an engineered virus. I thought this was most likely a natural reassortment of RNA between birds and an animal. We didn't, something like an aardvark in humans. And I think, no, seriously, that's how some of these viruses, these coronaviruses, come about. But I think it's pretty clear right now that I think I was wrong. I think that we do see an engineered virus. I think we see a little signature at the end of the RNA that really can't happen spontaneously in nature. So now we have a whole other set of questions. What the devil were we being fed? And there has to be some accountability at some level. But when I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you I'm wrong. And when I'm right, I'm going to tell you I'm right. And I was right about the death certificates. Because what that really was it wasn't about a one-time, one bad decision. It was about the creation of a culture that would absolutely inflate the numbers of COVID-19 so that we would be scared silly. Our Minnesota mission statement. Our mission is to educate Minnesotans about the misconceptions of COVID-19. Spot on. Encourage everyone to stand against those fallacies without fear of retribution or threats. Spot on. We strongly believe that the emergency powers should be revoked and the power of health choice should be given back to individuals and families. Amen. And lastly, never again should the citizens of Minnesota be used as pawns for political maneuvering or power. Generally 20 microns. Well, let me just give you a little bit of a, they told me I could talk for an hour and a half, so we're going to go the whole time. Okay. If you just hold up a hair and look at it in the light, that's 50 microns, okay? So take a tenth of that and you got 5 microns. Well, typically a pore size in a mask is 20 microns. So if you put 3 ply together, boom, 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 now you're able to cut that pore size down to about 5 microns. So that's important. So that's the hole that things can go through. The question then is, how big is a COVID particle? It's 0.1 micron. Then the question is, 5 microns, 0.1 micron, what's the difference? 50 times. Just 50 times. It's just that straightforward. You can do it 3 times in a row and you get the same answer. It's 50 times as big. Okay, we need to think of something in everyday life so we can get our arms around it and have some context. What is 50 times larger than something else? And I thought about that. I did some research. And I think you know where I landed. If you look at a gnat from his nose to his backside, he's 1 millimeter. I didn't use a mosquito because mosquitoes are anywhere from 2 to 4 millimeters. And I wanted a 1 millimeter object, and that's a gnat. The next question is, that's 1 millimeter. How many millimeters is it in a 2-inch chain link fence? 50. So what we have is a perfect situation. If you believe that that mask will protect you absolutely against getting COVID, then you're the same person who puts up a 2-inch chain link fence around your house because you don't like the gnats. That's the facts, folks. So that's the kind of talk you're going to get for the next 18 months from you. It's going to be straight up. We're going to energize you, and we're going to ask you, please be the influencer that you can be. You are going to touch 3 to 5 people every day for the next 600 days. We need you to be powerfully motivated. You don't need to be going out there and saying, we have the best governor candidate we've ever had. You just need to go out there and say, we've got someone who's one of us. He believes in the same values we do, and he's as concerned about what's happening to our kids and the way we've treated ourselves and the way our liberties have been taken away from us. And he just is a straight shooter. That's what you need to do, is you need to say, Governor Walz has worked hard, so we want to offer him what he deserves, an early retirement plan. We'll respect him. We'll throw a party at the mansion. We'll wait till there's a blizzard and that'll be the night, okay? But seriously, we need you to engage. We need you to be energized. And we need to deal with the issues for the next 18 months from a people perspective. It always has to be about, how does it affect you? What does public safety look like to you? What does taking care of our kids look like to you? If you've never done it, go in your Google box and put in 2 words, still, S-T-I-L-L, face, F-A-C-E. Look at the still face experiment and watch this 9-month-old child interface with her mom for about 45 seconds while her mom is interacting and gaga goo-gooing. And then watch when mom turns around, wipes everything away from her face, turns back, stares at this 9-month-old child, and will give this 9-month-old child exactly what that child would see if she were wearing a mask. And you watch this 9-month-old first reach out, try to provoke the response that she was getting a few moments ago. and you watch this 9-month-old become distressed. It literally is gut-wrenching to watch. That's what we've done. And we've done it for a disease that literally leaves people under the age of 50 untouched. Influenza kills people every year. 80,000 people died in this country in 2018 from influenza. Life's a fragile gift. But you know what's even more important? Liberty. If you think that liberty and freedom don't matter, then you shouldn't be hearing my words. But I think it does. We get to live the life we have. We live in the context of life being fragile. We say we're going to do our best. We're going to try to leave the place better than we found it. So folks, Dr. Scott Jensen. DrScottJensen.com is our website. We'd love to have you involved. We're in it for the duration. Mary and I want to help make Minnesota better. And for me, it's been the thrill of a lifetime to be able to speak for my patients, whether it be for a woman who I have to tell has breast cancer, or for a man that I told, you've got prostate cancer, or for it's a young lady that I say, your colon cancer has been completely removed. That's a closed chapter in your life. Get on with your life. To speak for my patients has been an incredible privilege, and now Mary and I are asking, can we speak for Minnesotans? Can we have your voice come alongside of ours, and today, together, can we create a groundswell that will be nation leading and will make people say, holy cow, if they can do it in Minnesota, we can do it across the country. That's what we're about, folks. Let's go do it. Thank you.
Thank you. We want to answer some questions. All right. Give it up for Scott Jensen.
Big deal. It's an intervention, and we don't know what kind of outcome we're going to get. If we did, we wouldn't have 1,000 people right now with myocarditis from COVID-19. So absolutely, if you're going to have an intervention, you have to have a choice. Government shouldn't be telling you if you're going to get a Humira shot, and it shouldn't be telling me if I have to take or not take chemotherapy. Penicillin, some people think, well, it's just a shot. No, it's not just a shot. A penicillin shot's a totally different animal. We're not worried about what his T cells or B cells are going to do. All we're going to do is just go kill the strep. But it's a totally different picture. So the bottom line is, vaccine mandates are wrong, and so are de facto mandates. On the way here today, I was reading a text. A young person wants to go back to college at Notre Dame. Notre Dame just announced they will not let you back in unless you get your vaccine. This person has antibodies to the nuclear capsid, antibodies to the spike protein, sent them over to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame said, nope, you can't come this fall. It's absolutely wrong. First order of business for me in January of 2023 would be to rewrite the emergency powers. But here's the problem. If Governor Walz gives up his emergency powers tomorrow, that's not enough, because he may grab them 5 days later. It has to be rewritten. Now, but we can't be overly simplistic either. Emergency powers are a real thing necessary in every one of our 50 states, if it's because of flooding, fires, tornadoes, whatever. So they have a place. What's happened is that we have very poorly written statute, and we're paying a dear price for it. Emergency powers that are supposed to be there for emergencies are being used as political leverage. Eric Mortensen and I have met about the never again, and we absolutely both agree that never again should this happen. But what he has put together doesn't appear to solve all the problems. So Senator Dave Osmek had introduced the idea that if you're going to have emergency powers, make both houses, Senate, House, say yes, not say no. But I don't think that's strong enough. I think that if we have emergency powers in place, we may well have to write the legislation where if you want emergency powers for more than 30 days, both the House and the Senate have to provide a supermajority yes. So I think that that's what should happen. We have to make it difficult for anybody to take over Minnesota. Yep. So I don't think that Eric's Representative Morton's bill is the important thing. The important thing is never again. And let's do it right. And that would be the first order of business, and it should succeed, because if I step in as governor and I say to the legislature, listen, I want to give up these powers. I never want to have another governor have the ability to be an emperor like we have gone through.
In late 2020, you and Mayor Jensen put out a video discussing the death certificates and the questionable cases that were counted as COVID. Is there any more things going on with investigating that or amending any of those things?
Accountability is a dangerous thing for people in charge. I mean, I was listening to Tucker Carlson on the way over here today, and you know, you're talking about Fauci and his 3,000 more emails, and there's enough there that if that was President Trump, they'd be screaming from the rafters. Dr. Fauci should be held accountable.
Yep.
So should Governor Walz.
Yep. All the way. Down.
And there's an easy way to do that. All you need to do is just audit the death certificates. We've had slightly around 7,000 deaths in this state from COVID-19, presumably. But if you look at the death certificates, all you have to do is look at the bottom line completed in part 1. And if it's not a COVID diagnosis, it's not a COVID death. Well, we did that. And 35 to 40% of them were incorrect. It was drowning, it was congestive heart failure. So we knew right off the bat that the number was big and inflated. Florida, Kentucky, Colorado, West Virginia all did the same thing. New Mexico is doing it now. Many of these states have called me and asked me to look over the data. So we know that there's a problem. We know the numbers are inflated. We also know that the PCR tests are dramatically inflated. So we've had more corruption in our data than ever before. And we didn't even talk today about the fact that it's just a horrible thing that I couldn't meet with each one of you if you had COVID and we could talk about it. Does hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin play a role?
Yep.
Why would government say that we can't have that conversation and make that decision? We are looking at stuff that we can look at. We have people that can help us interpret it, but if there's a concept we don't know. Some people came to me and asked me, well, what about this cycle threshold with PCR testing? Well, here's what it is. If you come in and I'm going to check your hearing, and I give you a sound at 20 decibels, and you don't hear it, I raise it up exponentially, and I get it to 30 and to 40, and if you don't hear it, and you don't hear it, and you don't hear it, if I get to 120 decibels, that's like you standing next to a 747 taken up, and you will hear it. And when you say yes, I say, oh, good, he's got hearing. That's what we sort of do with the cycle threshold. We run these things so often that we keep going until we finally get it. And that's why Fauci himself said that when you're running a cycle threshold greater than 40 to 45, and it turns positive, all you're catching is this dead nucleotides, dead proteins. It has nothing to do with an infection. An infection is down at 25 cycle thresholds. And remember, we're using a technology that had no original intent to be used to diagnose viruses. It was used simply to generate more DNA material. And don't for a moment kowtow to anyone. Don't kiss the ring. Stay engaged. Let's do this.
All right, we got one more. In your opinion, what are the most pressing issues in society here in Minnesota today?
Think of a rubber band. Stretch it beyond what it should be stretched. Don't quite break it, just stretch it. And then let it go back. Does it go back to where it was? It doesn't. That's what we're worried about in this room. We're worried that if we were willing to allow our rights, our individual rights, to be intruded upon and invaded as readily as it was for something like this, and they just keep doubling down. Literally, we went from bad modeling data to masks to lockdowns to what is herd immunity to Fauci changing his mind, and here we land on vaccines. Vaccines can be a game changer for some folks. If you look at the likelihood of dying of COVID-19, if you're 82 years old with a lot of medical problems, and you look at the likelihood of problems from the vaccine would be the better odd, the better bet to take. But if you're looking at people under the age of 70 in good health, the vaccine is purely a choice. And the concept of a vaccine passport or a mandate, or a de facto mandate, folks, we can never again let government do this to us. Never.
All right, let's give it up for Scott Jensen.
Scott Jensen.